Antifa plotting civil war to take out Trump, and they're dead serious. The far-left domestic terrorist group known as Antifa is planning to launch a civil war to remove President Trump from power by any means necessary. Several websites sponsored by groups affiliated with the violent radicals have all created a call to action for their supporters on November 4th to gather in the streets and public squares of cities and towns across this country in hopes of creating civil unrest that ultimately leads to changing leadership in our country. Our protests must grow day after day and night after night, thousands becoming hundreds of thousands, and then millions determined to act to put a stop to the grave danger that the Trump-Pence regime poses to the world by demanding that this whole regime be removed from power, the Refuse Fascism website states. In the name of humanity, we refuse to accept a fascist America, echoes the website for the voice of the Revolutionary Communist Party USA, using the same hysterical rhetoric often heard by far-left news commentators. Both websites state they refuse to wait for the democratic process to play out in our country and will instead start a ferocious struggle to make the changes they desire. The stakes are nothing less than the future of humanity and the planet itself, the group states, as it vows to stop the unrelenting terror from the Trump administration. Who are the terrorists? Given Antifa's penchant for violence against their political opposition, law enforcement would be wise to take notice of their plans. On Thursday evening, comedian and political commentator Steven Crowder released a video in which Antifa supporters were shown plotting violent unrest against conservatives. At one point in the video, Crowder's undercover reporter was forced to abandon the Antifa group because they had passed out sharp objects and were plotting on how to draw conservatives back to their direction so they could ambush them with sawed-off shotguns, rifles, and handguns. And the shocking footage came just days after far-left agitators blocked a freeway in Los Angeles before holding up signs that read, "November 4th, it begins." Yeah, okay. But also, you'll see the mainstream media sticking up for them.
Protests, violence, riots, calling everyone a Nazi. This is the MO of Antifa. We've all seen it, but the media, politicians, and academia all defend, deflect, or completely deny.
They are strictly principled anti-fascists.
What we saw were some brave people risking their lives.
That group protests fascism. Maybe their tactics weren't exactly right. It's messy.
Antifa are people who go and they try to push back on these guys, but it is not the case that they are going around building an armed movement.
Fascism cannot be defeated through speech. You need to take it with the utmost seriousness before it's too late.
Black Lives Matter, the Antifa movement is interested in preserving the fabric of America.
Antifa is one of those things that somebody came up with as a catchphrase so that you could say, oh, there's violence on the other side.
But why is that? Why defend the indefensible? Are they really just an inconsequential group of rabble-rousers? How deep does Antifa's organization go? What's their end game? Well, for several months, we tracked and infiltrated Antifa, culminating in their violent protest of the notorious Jewish Nazi speaker, Ben Shapiro, at the University of Utah. But before we get to the part where we send not gay Jared in undercover, vulnerable, afraid, and shaking like a Chinese crested without one of those little gay sweaters, a little backstory.
I want to kick my own ass.
In order to get in with the Antifa crowd, we had to infiltrate their private groups. After news broke that they were officially classified as a domestic terrorist organization, they pulled everything in much closer to the chest. They started vetting people, becoming paranoid about spies. They demanded we meet with them in person, installing a cryptic messaging app onto our phone, which they used to organize.
So I just met with the guy, and he installed a super secret encrypted messenger app on my phone, and they immediately took roll call, using all pseudonyms, such as Firebird, Ski Mask, Xavius, yeah, everyone except for Will.
Yes, Will, whom we immediately identified on Facebook. Will also boasted of his sawed-off shotguns and armory in his trunk. At least that's what he said.
I have two guns I have like on the border between just a regular rifle and an assault weapon and a sawed-off style shotgun. And
yeah, like last ditch.
Gray Subaru with a dent on the driver's side. That's mine.
So remember, just as the local authorities will remember, this is Will. What happened to you, Will? Somewhere on the way, you lost yourself. Believe me, it gets worse. The context makes all of this so much worse. Oh, also, yes, the violent Antifa organizer is seemingly tranny and or genderqueer. Patience. Now, to be fair, anyone can likely show up and protest, but they told us that all of this was required if we wanted to take part in their self-professed tactics. Now, just what do they mean by tactics? Well, we found out the next day. Again, patience. First, to understand what their tactics are, understand that Antifa is now in a PR battle. So what they claim and what they do are two very different things.
The clothes and our tactics and outfits on the way because they're not prepared for what we're planning.
Despite wanting to put distance between themselves and Antifa, and despite what resident gay Asian SJW-in-chief George Takei tweets out, Antifa has never operated alone. They've been actively supported by professors and other leftist and student organizations. For example, current University of Utah faculty like Cindy Geraldine Solomon Kleppa and Alinda McKenna encouraged and emboldened students to disrupt the Ben Shapiro event and to create chaos.
People like Ben Shapiro are the most dangerous people on this earth. And we're going to fight him tomorrow, aren't we?
Yeah. Solidarity. And student organizations like the Students for a Democratic Society, because that's the thing, not only work alongside Antifa when convenient, but work with them to scope out police and even to provide pseudo-security by committing acts of violence.
Antifa is, just to be clear, it's not an organization.
That's what we want to know.
It's short for anti-fascist, and I'm absolutely anti-fascist.
And I would echo what Ian just said. Antifa as a label does not mean one static organization, but it's definitely an ideology, a movement.
Anyone filming them? And just how violent can they get?
If you go down to like the military surplus store, the Navy surplus store, whatever, you can get like a K-bar for like $30-40. And it's just a combat knife. It's fixed blade, 5 inches or so, but it's just you strap it on your leg. And this one's like tiny, so you have to really stab it.
Yeah.
Yeah, like last ditch is going to be Durham down here.
Whoa, hold. Luring people to their cars with sawed-off shotguns and handing out knives and shivs. This went far beyond a goof, and we needed to get Not Gay Jared out of there. Good thing the man's got a quick mind.
Is there a place to shit around here? I don't know this campus. Alright, I'll be right back. You guys gonna be in a few minutes?
Yes, at the risk of being called a snitch, Not Gay Jared immediately turned the footage over to the authorities, who were already aware of our presence there, by the way. Turns out they'd been tracking this pansexual/transgender queer with an axe to grind for a while, and they were grateful for our footage. The media, on the other hand, who you think would jump on a story like this, well, their response is what's most disturbing of all.
He was just down there at President's Circle when they were handing out sharp objects to stab people with, so they had someone come over with an AK. Why did it take 2 late-night hosts, comedians, to find this out?
You know what, I wish you guys luck.
Yes, you just saw correctly. Even being
wish you
shown
guys
footage
luck.
in the presence of police officers to confirm authenticity, they walked away. Also, I should note, this is
because George Soros is paying them, and that's basically it. But they're in for a rude awakening because the officers of this country are not sleeping. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below, and again, thank you so much for watching.